something unusual home from the workplace. Nestled among the business documents, coffee thermoses, and leftovers was the fish philosophy. Fish for Life is a story of what can happen when fish goes home.
Mary Jane and Lonnie.
4 years had passed since Lonnie proposed to Mary Jane. They had been sitting in their favorite coffee shop, deep in the conversation of two people who woke up one day to find that a close friendship had become something romantic. Mary Jane had asked for some of the scone they typically shared, 80-20, and when she looked down at what was pushed across the table, it was not a scone at all. It was the large head of a monkfish with its mouth wide open. And in that massive open mouth was an engagement ring that, after a pause born out of shock, she gleefully accepted and allowed Lonnie to put it on her finger. Lonnie had access to an ample supply of fish heads from which to choose, as he was a well-known fishmonger at a famous Seattle fish market. Pike Place Fish was not only a fish market, but also a tourist destination where people assembled each day in large crowds to watch the action and left with smiles and stories, as well as fish. In fact, it was at the market that Lonnie and Mary Jane first met 5 years before, when she wandered in on her lunch break, attracted by the energy and carrying her brown-bag lunch and a big problem. Lonnie, seeing the stress lines on her face, did what he does so well. He engaged her in a light-hearted conversation until the stress lines were erased by the natural smile lines underneath. He brought lightness to her countenance while he listened to her story. Lonnie had no idea at the time of all the stress Mary Jane was feeling. He just responded to another human being, a human being who seemed to need a boost. Mary Jane had lost her husband, and as a single mother of two, she had definitely needed the financial benefits of the promotion she had been offered. Even though she was aware of the terrible reputation of the group she would manage, she'd accepted the position. She had hoped the problems in her new department had been exaggerated, but she soon realized they were actually worse than she could have imagined. She immediately encountered difficulties with her entrenched, entitled, and cynical staff. The day she walked into the market, she had no idea how to begin changing things, and was deeply concerned and frightened. As Mary Jane and Lonnie talked that day, Mary Jane described her promotion at First Guarantee Financial and the disgruntled and caustic staff she'd inherited. Lonnie burst into laughter when she told him the managers at First Guarantee referred to her staff as the toxic energy dump. Lonnie was impressed by her determination and curious about life in the big office buildings that overlooked the market. Mary Jane wanted to know more about why the market was so full of energy and whether there were lessons to be learned from the market that could help her staff. Lonnie was delighted to be of service, and not just because it was his nature. He also wanted to spend more time with her, being highly attracted from the first moment of their meeting. And so Lonnie agreed to explain the inner workings of the market at a later date. Mary Jane was a good student and began to grow as a leader. Before long, she had her staff coming to the market looking for ways to bring some of the energy to the third floor of First Guarantee, where their amazing accomplishments eventually became folklore. Mary Jane and her team had discovered for themselves the old wisdom brought to life at the fish market, and they created on the third floor a workplace so attractive that there was a waiting list of applicants from other parts of the company. The work itself had not changed, but the way they chose to do their work each day had. As they evolved as a team, they created an appealing space where internal and external customers were served like they had never been served before. But all of that was years ago. Mary Jane had since married Lonnie, been promoted again, and become swept up in the daily, hectic crush of life and work. What has happened to my life? As Mary Jane Ramirez cleaned the house, she dusted around a small display of wedding photographs above the downstairs fireplace. She took a closer look at the pictures. The mix of fishmongers and First Guarantee employees outside the church always made her smile. She glanced out the window at the brilliant day and thought, "This is the kind of day you don't talk about with those who don't live here. If they knew we had days like this, they might move."